Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our weekly stock market analysis. This is where we do analysis on QQQ, S&P 500, as well as the Mag 7s. And we have a lot to talk about this week. This is the very first week bears have pretty much showed up. And I'll talk about a couple of things in the charts later where I want to see from the bears to see if they have any kind of potential follow through to the downside, or if this is just like a mini drop, a bull flag on the weekly, and the next thing we go is new all-time highs. So we'll take a look at the chart real quick after we take a real quick on the data is. So AI sentiment data, this was a little bit of a sign where, there was bears becoming less and less to 33%, and we went even higher on the bullish side. So that was kind of a little bit of a sign where we were potentially topping out as we slowly yarn higher. And in terms of fear and greed index, not that much help here. If this comes to extreme fear, this is where we might get like potentially a big bounce or a temporary bounce. So keep an eye on watching that. At the moment, neutral is not really going to help us much. In terms of data, last week we had jobs data coming in pretty darn bad on Friday, which kind of tanked the market as well. And so we have a little bit more next week, some manufacturing data and initial jobless claims on Thursday. Not as much as last week, but just a little bit here to keep an eye on watch if you're day trading, because these can move the market right when it comes out. In terms of earnings, no real big movers anymore. All the big techs were reported last week, and AMD potentially might move the semiconductor sector a little bit. If it reports bad earnings, it drops 10%. SMH or XOXX, the semiconductor is probably going to drop like 3%. So not like 3%, like maybe like 1%, 1 to 2%, depending on how much it drops. Let's go to the charts. So we're on the Qs for now, and this is pretty much the first week that we have now bears having enough space that they may potentially confirm a downtrend. So you guys know why every week I talk about the bare minimum I want to see from bears, right? Every week I said I want a big enough drop where we give a space that we can potentially set the lower high when we do bounce. So I'll keep an watch on that. So if we get a bounce, potentially like a weak bounce on the daily, like next couple of days, that may be a sign where we may potentially roll over. So let's say we bounce here, right? Or we make one more leg down on Monday, like a gap down, and then we bounce. And I want to see this EMA until curl over. This was acting as support prior, right? So we want to see it act as resistance. And then when it rejects, it becomes a weak bounce, and we make a new low. That'll be the daily downtrend confirmed for the very first time since all the way back here, right? Since before all that tariff drama and all that stuff. On this way up, entire way up, we never confirm a daily downtrend. So when the daily downtrend does confirm, that would give us a clue where, okay, potentially weekly and monthly consolidation, right? It's going to start. We're definitely due for some monthly consolidation as well, right? Monthly charts, this is the bottom to the top. We ran 43% already. So I wouldn't be surprised if August goes below July and starts some kind of monthly consolidation, or even just the next couple 2 months, right? If this goes choppers down a little bit and they come up and it goes a little bit lower like that, even if we back test this prior all-time high, it wouldn't be surprising at all. Right, this could just be a monthly bull flag back to 510, right? And it would just be still a healthy pullback. It would just be testing this prior all-time high structure. And then we can just bounce, flag a little bit here, right? And then bounce. Depending on, obviously, the data. We continue to get really bad jobs data, and the unemployment continues to rise up in the next couple months, then that's going to be a red flag. I don't think we're going to just bull flag and make new all-time highs if that happens. Probably gonna get a lot of rate cuts if that does happen, though. So keep an eye and watch. The next couple of month data is gonna be pretty darn important in terms of where the market is gonna head to in the longer run, at least. But for now, let's see if the bears can really confirm a daily downtrend, because we have seen these big drops before, right? Like, like especially when over here, right? It's like, oh, bulls are doing fine, grind. Big drop, 2-day drop. Next thing you know, making new all-time highs, right? So we have these all the time, right? Grind. Another 4% drop, new all-time high, right? So this was a little bit bigger, but we made new all-time highs as well, right? Over here as well, right? Big drop for 3 days, 4%, new all-time highs. Never confirmed the downtrend, right? This was enough space for bears to confirm downtrends. Never happened. Same thing over here. Never happened. So bears have their first step, right? This was Thursday was the clue where it was a blow off top, right? Blow off top is essentially a pretty much a long grind up, and then we gap up and then sell everything off. So that was the clue on Thursday, where we had Meta's and Microsoft earnings, bullish reaction after hours. It was up like 8%, 11%, and then Microsoft sold off during the regular trading hours, and Amazon I think Amazon was had bearish reaction as well. Um, so that was kind of the clue where most of the big techs were having a bearish reaction after their bullish reaction after earnings. And this was pretty much the first red flag of blow up top candle right there. And we got follow through on Friday. So now the question is this just going to be a chip chop around this level and flag and they go to all-time highs, or can the bears actually confirm that daily downtrend for me? Is the key. So, so next week, key watch is this going to be a weak bounce early next week? It's going to be a weak bounce, then that lower low may potentially be shaping up. So, all right, we'll take a look at the Max sevens real soon to give us more clues. See if we get more follow through from the cues to the downside. You can see as well, like there was a lot of clues where sector rotations weren't happening anymore, especially this week. Right, you can see the financial sector and all the other sectors weren't getting that money rotating around when text was going down. On this way up, you can when QQ was kind of like slightly red, going sideways a little bit, you can see like SPY grinding even higher when the financial sector, healthcare sector, all the other sectors was getting money rotating around and back and forth. We weren't seeing that anymore this week, so that was kind of like the second clue after this blow up top, and the third clue was the earnings, right? Bullish after hours earnings, and the next thing you know, we sell a lot of it off the next day in the real regular trading hours. So, and then the job, right? We have more tariff news, and then we have really bad job numbers coming in. A lot of revisions. That was like I think revision a lot lower. So yeah, a lot going on at the same time, and all that happened literally when we're at all time highs and being extended at the same time. So that's why we create these large moves. It's just a period of 2 days. All right, let's take a look at SPY. So SPY, I wouldn't say it is rejected off the line perfectly or anything, but yeah, but it looks like it right prior all time high. This was the 2022 all time high. Just a little bit connected to here. This prior all time high, and just a little bit. This is more of a visual guide. I wouldn't trade off of it, like I said. But right, so same idea, right? I wouldn't be surprised if SPY backtests here either. Prior all time high, come back here, tag the weekly EMA 12, and then flag around here and see what happens. With the employment data coming in later, in next month. We just had it, right, so it'll be the next month. So we'll see how if it pretty much same idea of cues, right? Every week I said the bare minimum I want to see for the bears, it's give me a big enough drop, give me some space for lower highs, and at least break the EMA 12, which we did. We tried to hold it there on Thursday. You can see like On Thursday we bounced here. Friday we're just sitting right on it, but then we gap down on it. You can see increasing volume as well from the bears, so that's a good sign for the bears. It always will increase in volume for bears. For bulls, you can just slowly grind up without volume, but for bears, you need that volume to come in to sell off. Right? Bulls can just slowly grind, doesn't matter, right? It's always bears that needs the volume. So you can see no volume here. It's kind of slowly grind. Doesn't need that volume. Slowly just grinds up. So that being said, let's see if this is what happens when like you slowly grind up for like multiple months, right? 2 days you wiped out. Let's see how many weeks. 1, 2, 3. Since July 25th. That's like 2 weeks of stop losses essentially. Thursday was still looking okay, and then Friday we gapped down, and everybody that probably put their stop losses here all got stopped out, and then it went all the way to this area. So there's two scenarios here. Monday we get a gap down, and then bounce, and then we look for that lower high. See if it's going to be a weak bounce, and then reject from at least this structure, and then make that lower high around there and go lower low. Or we just get a weak bounce here on Monday, and then make that lower, potentially lower high and lower low. Or nothing happens. We just fill this gap, and then next thing you know, we make new all-time highs, which I don't think is going to happen, but we'll have to see. I mean, we've just been grinding like this for a very long time, so anything can happen. All right, let's take a look at the MX7s to give us more clues. If this was gonna drag back a little bit more, or what? Let's see. All right, so Meta up 11% from earnings, and sold off just 3%. This is a weird looking chart. So got up to new all-time highs, and then just kind of dropped 3%. So this is pretty much just back testing prior all-time highs. So let's see if it bounces here. If Meta doesn't bounce here, it's likely gonna come back down to 723. If we come down to 723 and it gets a weak bounce, we're probably just gonna fill this whole gap back to 710. Then that would be kind of a red flag. Yeah, honestly, this is a really weird looking chart. That being said, Meta is probably the only one that looks fine at the moment, because it's just back testing all-time high. Yeah. So if it holds this level, I wouldn't be surprised if it bounces here and then try to come back to 768. But if it goes another leg down, we're looking at 725 for that support around here. And if we come to 725 and it becomes a weak bounce, right? Let's say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's like a weak bounce. That will be when you want to be careful that this can make that lower high and lower low, which would also drag the Qs down for that weak bounce and confirm that daily downtrend. That's what you want to be watching for, at least on Meta. I always have all the MX7 chart open when I'm trading the Qs or futures, so make sure you keep these charts open to have better clues where Qs might head to. All right, let's take a look at Tesla. Okay, so it looks like it wants to break its tightening range. I mean, it kind of broke this pivot, but didn't get much follow through, which kind of makes sense because it's been red 1, 2, 3, right? And this is the fourth day that it broke with it. So I'm gonna be surprised to not get follow through initially, right? It's a 10% drop into support. But I want to see this one break for more follow through on the downside. So might get a little bit bouncier. If they get a little bit bouncier and then it forms a lower high, lower low, we're probably going to break this pivot, right? You can see on all these moves. Okay, it's a tiny range, right? We've been talking about this tiny range for like many months. Move up, move down, doesn't exceed the prior lows, right? Move up, doesn't exceed the prior highs. It just rejects from the low of the structure, and right, and then even more picture perfect tiny range here. Each move is within the prior move, right? It's always doesn't exceed the prior lows or prior highs. This is the first time we just kind of cracked this mini first pivot at the moment, but also broke this kind of trend line here, right? Support, broke on Friday. That being said, every time we drop, right, it's always a straight move up, straight move down, straight move up, straight move down. Nobody really confirmed the uptrend or the downtrend at the moment. So if the bear wants to win here and get follow through to test these two pivots, they need a weak bounce on the lower high, potentially bounce back to around, let's see, this 310 area, 310 to 313 area, and then we roll over, break this low on Friday. Then we'll confirm a daily downtrend, and we'll likely test this 288 and 284 zone on Tesla. That would just be a bear break on this monthly tiny range. Yeah, if we break 289, there's a good chance that we gonna come back down to 274, where we try to hold here, which is this high of this structure. It's gonna act as support. All right, let's take at Amazon. All right, so Amazon here is starting to look like a tiny range now. So that's if the Amazon becomes a tiny range, that's going to drag down the Qs a lot, right? Prior low, high. The low does not exceed the prior low. And the characteristic of the tightening range is it will kind of like retrace 70 to 80%, kind of getting really close to it, but doesn't exceed the lows and highs. This bounce, we have, right, pretty much didn't exceed the highs, but it was near really close as well. Now the drop just started. So if this becomes a tiny range, let's just say it comes down to here, 192, right? We don't have to say it's going to come all the way to 176. That would be quite a bit of a drop to ask for at the spot, obviously. But if it starts confirming weekly downtrends here, then okay, maybe we'll actually come back down to 180s. But for now, let's just say here, to the 192 or something. This prior resistance, right? It's going to act as support there. That's another 10% drop. So that would drag the Qs down quite a bit. If this tiny range actually does shape up. Yeah, so wouldn't be surprising. Let's see, we just so if it comes down to here and then it breaks the 192, then there's a good chance we may actually come down to 170s and 75s here. So yeah, that being said, right, we need that's still too far at this moment. We need bears to confirm trends first. Getting downtrends on the daily time frame first, bare minimum, right? Then I'll start to zoom out. Be like, okay, get a daily downtrend, and I'll be like, okay, let's see if we can get a weekly downtrend in. Get a weekly downtrend in, then it's going to be a monthly consolidation, right? Get that monthly consolidation, um, then maybe we'll come back down. But for now, that's just too far. But just keep an eye, like in the back of your mind, right? It's just be cautious if that does happen. When I get caught off guard, all of a sudden, next thing you know, Amazon's trading at 193 or something. So yeah, but This one's pretty much the most bearish one because of how much space there is. There's like almost 10% of space for bears to work with, right? So you get a like 5% bounce, we're probably going to be here, right? 223, and it's going to be resistance here, and then potentially bears can shape that lower high. Let's see. Yeah, even it's a 4% bounce, we're hitting with some resistance. So let's see. We get that bounce here. Right, let's say it comes up back up to like 222. There's a lot of resistance here. And back to this all-time high structure again, and it rejects there, rolls over, sets the um, lower high here, and then we get the lower low daily downtrend confirm. All right, so we got Google. So Google was the first one to report, and then it kind of just went. Right, it was reported not pretty decent as well, and we had a bullish reaction. It kind of held sideways, and then waited for the other peers to report, and then rolled over with it. So yeah, this is not as clear of a tiny image because we exceeded this low. So if this is going to be a tightening range, it would just be starting from here, down, up. That's not really giving us much clues at the moment. So, but that being said, this could just be a sideways trade, kind of like Microsoft. What Microsoft did in around here, I call it Microsoft did in 2024, essentially, right? January 2024 all the way to January 2025. Absolutely sideways, completely sideways. So is what Google can do as well. So let's say if pull back here, right? This could just be sideways. And if it does that, if it pulls back all the way down here, then we can say, okay, this tiny image may start to shape up. But for now, we don't want to say this potentially be a tiny image because we just have 2 moves. Versus Amazon, it's already 3 moves. Right? 1, 2, 3. This is a little bit more valid that this may happen. But for now, Google is holding up pretty darn good. The Q's dropped the last 4%. It's just, yeah. If it holds here, then it's fine. And it has a chance back to 196. But if we get another drop down here, then I'm looking down closer to pretty much where we broke out from, right? Very, very clear resistance around this 181. And then we broke out here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we back test 181. And then we'll have to see if Google forms that lower high and lower low. Get a daily downtrend here and then come back to 176. Then there's a good chance we're going to come back to 169. All right, so let's get this guy. So this is where what blow off top looks like, pretty much, right? You gap up like 9-10% and then give it all back, pretty much. But that being said, it's not. It's like it's kind of. There's no way for us to really chart this kind of thing because it's like we're all time highs and it just you see the blow off top, it's a red flag. But now it's like now what, right? It's just gonna come back down, come to here, hit this prior support, 513, and then bounce here. So this is what would likely happen if you're a bear, what you want to see. So see all these resistance, right? It's 114. You want to see it come down, fill the gap, bounce here, and it becomes a weak bounce. And then you roll over, right? Yeah, like what? 7% space for that lower high. So if the bears can't even form a downtrend with 7% space, then there's really no bears. Right? They did a great job on creating that space now. So this is the first time for all of these max 7s and like Qs that there is space for that lower high. This is the pretty much next week. is the week that you want to be cautious um, about, right? Versus this entire way up, there was never enough space for any kind of lower highs on, right? So yeah, you're gonna like if we have another like one of those like big leg downs, right? You're stopping everyone out as well, right? It's kind of like the slow grind up, and you get one day and kind of like wipe all the stop losses. But yeah, and the monthly consolidation is very due as well, right? Monthly bull flag, we're looking back at 475. So yeah, let's be a little bit cautious. If we get a monthly bull flag, that's another 9% away. So yeah, August is also kind of like a slower month as well. So in terms of the market, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get some pullbacks into like the fall season, right? So we're kind of more like a let's see, we get pullback, daily downtrend kind of here, and it kind of goes more sideways, right? Actually into actually fall and end of the year. That wouldn't be surprising at all. Right, let's take a look at Apple. All right, so it looks like Apple has not cleared its resistance since the tariffs. So, right, we look at this resistance every week together, and it looked like it wanted to break out here, right? It made a higher low, higher high, and slowly grinding up, right? Every time it's making a new high here, higher lows, and it looked like it wanted to gear up for earnings and then break out here, but it looks like it went the opposite way. Um, so now I broke down. Now we're just gonna look back to this level again, sideways, complete sideways trade. So it's hard to come down to one. Well, it came down to first support, right? This is resistance, very clear right here. Block of resistance. We broke out. Now it just first stop. It's gonna be the first level of support, which is right here. If we break 200, we're coming back to 195, which is this where we bounced from the last multiple months. If we break that, then yeah, we're probably gonna come down to 185. 188 first and then 185. Yeah, so Apple is pretty much the weakest, I would say, out of all the Max 7s because it's been still trading near this tariff low range. All the other peers were trying to test this all-time highs. They were making, close near these levels. Some are making new all-time highs, like Microsoft, and they're kind of like tightening up like this. Meanwhile, Apple is just chilling down here near its lows. So when if they all start breaking down, right, this is probably going to go lower too with it. All right, so let's look at Nvidia, pretty much the most important one with Microsoft. I would say if they get more pullbacks, which I wouldn't be surprised. So Nvidia barely even pulled back, right? So Nvidia pulled back like what? Close over here, so pull back like 5%. Market's already down 4%, and the structure is still intact for Nvidia, right? Higher lows and higher highs each time. Another higher low, another higher low. This could just be another higher low. That being said, it's a lot harder for Nvidia to hold if all its peers is dropping, right? It's not like where everyone is going up. It's okay. It's super easy to go up. Being the stronger name, it's a lot easier to go up while everyone else is going up. Market's going up. Semiconductor is ripping. The sector itself is ripping. The ETF's SMH is also ripping. Right? It makes things a lot easier for it to continue to go up. Where when everything is going down, it's a lot harder for it to hold itself just by itself, especially after it's extended, right? It's not like we're talking about Nvidia still down here, where it can still, let's say, it could fight against the market and have relative strength and continue to go up, even if the market is red, right? let's say it was down here, right? But now we're up 112%, right, from the lows. It's a lot harder for it to stay up here and fight the market while everything else is going down. Right? It's a different story if you were just down here and right, different levels. So that's why it's otherwise this chart is actually really strong. Um, Still holding on the EMA 12, right? It's haven't broke a single pivot. Right? It's the last higher low here. So that means its earnings is like close to end of the month. So first step, bears make another leg down. Then we may potentially look for that head and shoulders look. Right, head and shoulders is just a uptrend into a downtrend, nothing fancy. Right, head and shoulders don't really work as well at all-time highs, but because market is all the other peers are potentially shaping up downtrends, it it makes the probability of this head and shoulders working out higher. But I would say we need another leg down to make that head and shoulders look. It doesn't have to be exactly down here. It could just be another leg down, maybe a little bit more here. And make that lower high, the right shoulder, right? And then lower low. That would just become a downtrend, right? Uptrend into a downtrend. Break the neckline. Then if that happens, then we're looking for a weekly consolidation, right? It's pretty due. So weekly consolidation for Nvidia is all the way down here. So even if it's a weekly bull flag, comes down to 150, I would not be surprised at all. 150 is also the perfect spot for the prior all-time high. So if it comes down to 150, back test prior all-time high resistance. Now I can support, bounce, flag here, right? I wouldn't be surprised if it flags here, bounce. And then we'll have to see how maybe potentially job data comes in later. If it stabilizes, then maybe we'll go sideways. Then boom, Christmas rally, right? Job data comes in better, stabilizes everything. Or job data comes in bad, and things roll over. Right? So we'll have to. But for now, weekly and monthly consolidation is pretty due. So, right, monthly would be like all the way down here. Monthly bull flag would be all the way down here to 146, which is also just backtesting prior all-time high as well. So that would be let's see, that'd be like a 15 to 20% pullback for prior all-time highs. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if we come back to near around 150, 151, 152. That being said, bears need to show up at least on Nvidia, but overall, Nvidia is still the strongest chart at this given moment of the Max 7s. No huge red flags at this moment. All right, that is all I got for you guys. Do to like, share, and subscribe and help the channel out, as well as I will see you guys tomorrow for more commodities update. If you guys are into natural gas, US dollar, oil, gold, and silver. And have a great rest of you guys' weekend. And feel free to check out the Patreon link to support the channel. Take care.